What's going on in Kano is of concern to every citizen of the country, especially the people of Kano State, because right now we have two people, monarchs laying claim to the throne. Of course, if you followed the news, you would have heard what happened. And that is the conversation for today. And we're being joined on the program by two gentlemen, one joining us from our Kano studio, who is a legal practitioner, Mr. Usman Imam. He joins us from our Kano studio. Also, thank you, Mr. Usman, thank you so much for coming on the program. We also have from our Abuja studio, Mr. Kolawale Johnson, who is a public affairs analyst. Mr. Johnson, thank you as well for coming on the program.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Imam, let's come to you. You are in Kano, so maybe you begin by telling us first and foremost what the pulse of the city is at the moment, given this development. We still saw protests erupting in Garaya yesterday.
Good morning, viewers. I remain Barrister Usman Imam Tudun. So in Kano right now, there is a relative peace. There is not any violence because people understand why the illegal order has been obtained, which does not stop the entire process. So there is no any protest within the ancient city of Kano. Even in Karai, it was politically organized, and the state government is fully aware of those people that have been organizing this violence. And I know it's time they are going to be brought to book.
So, for the records, His Royal Highness Aminu Ado Bayero, is he still occupying the Nasarawa Palace?
Whether he is occupying the Nasarawa Palace or is not is immaterial in the eyes of the law, because you cannot have two emirs at the same time for the same throne, except one is legally recognized and the other one is going to be a pretender. So I can tell you, the one in Nasarawa, the entire world knows that he is a pretender, of course, because he has been removed by the existing law, which is very unavoidable. You cannot stop the governor for signing the law, and you cannot stop the state assembly for drafting or passing the bill, because the bill in no way, there is no contradiction. The bill is in accordance with the culture and the political life of people of Kano State. That is why in the ancient city, there is 100% peace. So for that, we can see the state governor has tried and he has demonstrated that he is a man in the control of the game.
All right.
So there is no, we don't have two emirs.
All right.
This is the only recognized.
If I may button, let's also put in context that we invited Mr. Fage, who was supposed to speak for the other side of the divide, but is not available to speak on the issue. But we have Mr. Kolawale Johnson, who is a public affairs analyst. We've introduced him in our Abuja studio. Mr. Kolawale, let's help us make sense of what you see going on in Kano.
I think the sense should be gotten from what you titled it, the Game of Thrones, and I think that is what it is. And unfortunately, it is turning very political. I take you back to 2020 when Lamido Sanusi was dethroned. Of course, you didn't have protest, but some spoke against that and said it was highly political. And of course, you know that the emir is very outspoken, and I mean, he's one that wouldn't keep quiet if he needs to talk. And some think that was not reserved enough as the leader of the traditional institution, and the political force, of course, took him out. And unfortunately, there is a counter taken. And according to him, Alenti said recently that the move by the Kano state government is only an attempt to address the injustice done on him a few years ago. And the Kano state government said this was done through the proposition of the kingmakers of Kano. And remember that the Emirates predates the Nigeria state. And so I think the political forces are trying as much as possible to destroy what is left of our traditional institution. And you also have the courts involved here. Very unfortunate. And I think I read somewhere where lawyers argue that the Federal High Court has no jurisdiction over chieftaincy title because it actually belongs to the residue, at least, that is completely within the purview of the state government and not the federal government. So you can now ask who gave I don't want to address anyone as the post now. Who gave the emir in quotes now occupying the Nasarawa Palace the backing to come back to the state? Of course, you know the politics. There is no way the man will come back on his own. Who gave all the enablement, for him to come back, especially when the state government had pronounced, him the post, the throne. Not just that. Of course, it was done through the law. So I think in all of this, we should also expand conversation around the preservation of our traditional institution. You see, take for example the United Kingdom. What they have that has endured for years, of course, it is because people actively, preserve it. Political players do not joke with it. They don't bring it into their politics. So this we are doing would not just, have the effect on Kano. It will grow around the country. Of course, we have complained before that governors, political actors tend to just, make a pawn of our traditional institution. And this is actually going to worsen the case. So for me, making a sense would just mean that the political actors are trying as much as possible, to ensure that the traditional institutions remain a pawn in their hands. And let's say this very carefully. What the former government did was simple. When they took off the soul, Kano is very, what you have in Kano is very similar to what you have in Sokoto, Sakwato, where you only have the Sultan. So Kano also has that respected, institution where the Kano Emirate is the only. But unfortunately, it was divided into 5. And some said it was to ensure that those localities are controlled for political reasons. Now, if that was the case, and the present government, thought differently, and the actors who were in government before are now in Abuja, apparently looking at the science of the politics, that the number is in Kano, that they shouldn't joke with Kano. But unfortunately, they have also failed to look at the politics of the science of politics. Knowing that actors will always want to look at interest. And the interest is this. If you think you should take Kano at all costs because of the actors who are there, who are not necessarily your party members, you've forgotten again that the actors also will have their own selfish interest. When the game, actually begins in earnest, that may actually favor you even more than what you think. So I think politically, they should tread carefully. And again, on moral ground, we also have that obligation to tread carefully so that we don't set the traditional institution, and just throw it into the mud. I think we should be careful.
Interesting. I like your line there, Mr. Kolawole. We should be looking at the science of the politics of the science, something like that. Speaking of the actors behind this, I'll come to you now, Mr. Imam. Even though the former governor of Kano State and leader of the NNPP, Haji Rabiu Kwankwaso, has said that he has nothing to do with what is happening in Kano State as far as the dethronement of Emir Aminu Ado Bayero and the return, the reinstallment of Sanusi Lamido is concerned. Let's go back to 2023 when he had said, he had reportedly said that the opportunity to revisit the Sanusi's dethronement government has presented itself, and that he would advise the incoming government on what to do as an elder. So can we look at what is happening in Kano State independent of the influence of the former governor and leader of the NNPP, Alhaji Rabiu Kwankwaso? Mr. Imam, that's for you.
Yes, I can say no, because if you look at the situation, Kwankwaso is not in charge physically. Though NNPP is for Kwankwaso, and we know Abba is one of the disciples of Kwankwaso. But at this point in time, Abba has done what people of Kano have been agitating during campaign periods. Wherever those days during campaign Abba went, there was issue of reinstatement. There was issue of reunification of Kano Emirate into one single entity, which has been achieved very recently. So whether Kwankwaso is backing it or is not backing it, this is what the majority people of Kano are backing and are praying for. And God, in his infinite mercy, has actualized the dream of Kano people. So, yeah, Kwankwaso has said that is going to be a political issue, but now it's a legal issue because there is a law. And if Abba cannot be a reckless governor. If people of Kano State are not with him, he cannot do that. That is why you see there is peace in Kano. Whenever you see there is violence, the violence is organized by few people that the government knows them. And I know with time those people are going to be brought before the law. Yes. So actually for me and for people of Kano State, this is the right thing. Yes, for the one United Emirate, which we have cherished from our history, before plannings, down from, what do you call it, from the lens of memory, if you can go back to Rumpa, or we can say Hausa Kingdom, we have one single Kano Emirate. So
will you also say, pardon me if I may come in there, will you also view independently that court order stopping the reinstallment of Mohammed Sanusi II, independent of any influence of the former governor, Abdullahi Ganduje?
That order actually has been, if any reasonable person can look at it, is politically influenced.
Oh, so you agree that that is politically influenced?
Judge who signed on the order, it has been found out that he is not in Kano. He has been in United States of America. Look at where we are going. And the court order has not been served on the state government. That is why the governor went ahead and completed the entire programs. So you see, Ganduje, he may have influenced the order because people in Kano have known his political approaches. So he can do, and he can, whatever allegation that may be attached to Ganduje may be possible, may be right. Yes, because we have seen his administration in Kano, how things were going wrong and how things were influenced indirectly by him. So actually we know that court order is illegally obtained. That is why it does not have any legal force, as I said the other time.
Mr. Ma, if I may butt in,
should not be enforceable.
All right, interesting.
But unfortunately, some few days the order was people were trying to enforce, or the security agencies were trying to enforce the order, which the order can, even if it has been enforced, does not have any legal consequence to the entire programs, because the programs, right from the appointment.
If I may butt in, Mr. Imam, because of time. Whatever. Mr. Imam, my apologies. If I may butt in, let's take the conversation to Mr. Kolawole. Mr. Kolawole, there's a concern you raise, I think, which is the concern of every discerning individual, the interference. How do we insulate traditional institutions from political interference? We saw this under Bakarimi, when the Emirates were divided into four, and he said he's going to sleep soundly, that His Royal Highness late Nadu Bayero, there's nothing special. He made very strong statement I can't repeat on television. And then 40 years after, we saw what happened with Abdullahi Ganduje, falling out with the emir, and then even went on at public fora to say he served him a Jonathan medicine. And then this has now happened that NNPC took over and they've reversed that. People are even speculating whether after 8 years of NNPC, another government, if another government comes in, whether Sanusi will not be... It's just something that should not be a conversation. How do we insulate the traditional institution from political interference if this is the case?
Of course. I mean, we don't have any alternative to the laws. We need to use the instrument of the law. But unfortunately, those who will make the law are themselves political actors. Would they make laws against themselves? Now, you were asking the other guest about the court issues. I said something that, and you asked if there were political interference. Of course, he agreed. He was agreeing with that. There was no way that order would have come without some interference. The truth is, both camps are playing politics, whether the camp of Ganduje or the camp of Kwekwanso. I was talking about numbers, and I talk about the politics behind the science. I was only referring to the figure. I mean, the man you mentioned, of course, he will have interest. So clearly, they are all playing politics. However, if we must insulate the traditional institution from all of this, it must be by the law. There is no other thing. We don't have any alternative. We don't have that mature, social culture. We don't have that much, that maturity in our dealings enough for people, to exercise that restraint, when things are not in their favor. So we can only do this via the law. So if we are serious about preserving our traditional institution, this must be done by the law. But don't also forget that you now have the council, the local government. And so, I mean, we need to create the balance anyway. But I think we should try as much as we can to, whether tacitly or directly, I mean, we must be able to ensure that we protect our traditional institution. And see, what you have on ground is going to test not just the democratic ideals of the president, his creed, his credentials, should be brought to this for him to ensure that this does not degenerate into crisis. Unfortunately, if this continues, protest on both sides, we may be having something dangerous on our hand. If you have something erupting in Kano, you have something erupting in Rivers, I don't think it's in his favor. So we should also look at this dimension to it.
I'll come to you now, Mr. Imam, with a view to asking you to respond to the same question, how to insulate the traditional institutions from political interference. But I'd like to put it in proper context because it's been said that it's the Sanusi and the Bayero family are one and the same, that in fact the fathers of both men are sons of late Abdullahi, I believe Bayero himself. So it's just a difference in name. And in fact, the emir that has been reinstalled is married to the sister of the deposed emir, Aminu Ado Bayero. So what's happening here now looks like, a particular family, the royal family, being pitted against each other because of political interference. Are you concerned about this unwholesome implication as a result of political disagreements, and the royal family being a pawn in the play of these politicians? Are you concerned about that? And how can we check that in the future?
You see, as the other guest has said, it is only by the law. But unfortunately, the other time I said it here, that in Nigeria we have our constitution, which is a Republican constitution. And in that, there are implications. Because if you are going to say, okay, let us protect traditional institutions, let us have laws for them. So most of the laws that are being enacted have contradicted the spirit of the constitutions. That is the problem. So I think we can only, let's say, have something law. But there are two theories like in America. I don't want to go into that, where you have royalist theory, where you have liberalist theory. Under royalist theory, what the royalist theory is saying, the issue of hereditary right. So, and the issue of hereditary right cannot exist under our present constitutional context. It's only the liberal. And the liberal theory cannot favor the traditional rulers, because it's saying, okay, we can have a written law or traditional institution, but the requirements for one to be appointed as an emir or as an oba or whosoever must be neutralized. That the issue of hereditary right cannot be considered. It's the issue of required qualities that are needed at that particular time. This is the liberal theory that can be that you can bring the institution under the written law because of our constitution. But if you look at the royalist theory, royalist theory can only exist where you have monarchical constitutions. And most of the countries that have operated monarchical systems, you see constitutions that are Arab in nature, or countries that their constitution is not written, like UK. You see, we have what we call ceremonial monarch in UK, but the constitution is unwritten. So there is actually, we need to look at it academically before we put something. Yes, because there is a deep jurisprudence, but unfortunately, our legislatures are not there. Yes, like what I have heard, the speaker has been trying to see how they are going to be given the constitutional roles, which I know surely is going to contradict the spirit of the Constitution. And the spirit of our Constitution does not emanate from the Constitution. It emanates from other constitutions. So you see, even the law that has been signed in Kano recently, we are going to look at it again, whether there is that contradiction. Right. If there is that contradiction, definitely we are going to advise them to amend it for better existence, so that there is no contradiction
all right.
In the law.
All right, let me come to Mr. Kolawole.
On the safer side, but I hope there is not such contradiction.
As we begin to wind down,
discrimination, you know, all over the world is not accepted.
All right, as we begin to wind down, let's come to Mr. Kolawole. Going forward, at what point? I know you'd mentioned it in passing, but I'm thinking about what happened in Rivers State. As at the time the president stepped in, what the president did caused almost more trouble than resolving the issue, and we're still in that spiral till today. Maybe till tomorrow, if care is not taken. At what point should the president step in? Because people are saying it's only when there is a threat to break down law and order. Should we wait for a breakdown of law on the way? We're seeing telltale signs. If the government can't contain this, if it emanates beyond this, because what is happening is what is called an uneasy camp.
Well, knowing well that the president gets security report daily, I don't think he's unaware of what is going on in Kano. And if there is any official of his government giving tactical support to Adobayero, I don't think the president will be completely unaware. If he wasn't aware, he must have called for a briefing on that by now, of course. This has lingered for some days. So I don't want to believe completely that he's not aware at all. But now, on the other hand, if he's aware, what do you think will be his position? He's a politician. Now, you made reference to Rivers. I think it was the mode, it was the approach, it was the strategy that the president employed that appeared to be the issue. We were told that the actors were not called to the table to resolve, and for both parties to have, like a common ground. That the president only handed a resolution to them to go implement. And you ask, who drafted those resolutions? Who are those? I mean, you can't know a matter more than the people. I mean, more than the actors there. It will suddenly favor those who belong to the president. Now, let's look at that vis-a-vis the Kano issue. If the president is going to support politically, I think he will only go for his own. But as a statement that he is, as the, of course, he knows that he should be putting his credentials to test there. Like I said, his ideals, his principles, what he represents, and find a lasting solution to this without looking at the big numbers in Kano, knowing well that there are several ways to kill a bird when the time comes. Right. So for me, I think the president cannot, of course, this should not be the area of I was not aware.
All right.
No, this shouldn't be. So I think the president is fully aware of what is going on. He may be looking at the best approach, or the best way to intervene. But I think he's aware.
Yeah, you can land on your thought there in just about 5 seconds.
Yeah, of course, I have already.
All right. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time on the program. It will be indeed be interesting to see how this will be resolved. We'd like to thank you very much, Mr. Usman Imam, a legal practitioner who joined us from our Kano studio, and also Mr. Kolawole, who joined us from our Abuja studio. Thank you so much, sirs, for your time on the program. And here are some of your thoughts to the conversation. We'll take just about two. This one is from Lawrence Osifo, who chooses to speak to the Kano issue. And he says, I hope this political and traditional tussle in Kano doesn't degenerate into something else in the future. The traditional institution is a sacred one. Why play unnecessary politics by governors? Nigeria, we hail thee, our own dear native land. All right, this is from Professor Enakame. It says, federal government must take charge of the illegal mining in Nigeria that's fueling insecurity. Aside oil, government must look at attracting genuine investor on the gas sector. He said a lot of things as far as it's concerned. We don't have so much time, but those are your thoughts. Thank you so much, as always, for your time. And, of course, your usual company. We'll be back again tomorrow for yet another episode of the program. I'm Jeffrey Uzanga. And I'm Bukola Koka. See you tomorrow.